You're watching Experience Comic Culture and Sales, streaming live daily to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter.
Hey everybody, it's Thursday here on the Dan Wickline Show, and we are going to talk about that episode of Obi-Wan Kenobi. The one we were all waiting for and didn't realize we were going to get quite so soon. So stick around. We'll talk about it next. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Dan Wickline Show here on the Experience. And today we're going to be talking about Obi-Wan Kenobi. I mean, just off the bat, that. But before we jump into that, I just wanted, for those of you who were kind enough to back the Kickstarter I did back in January for Karma, the books are shipping. If you haven't got yours yet, you should soon. The signed ones were slightly delayed by a few days, but they're going out now too. And you can see that we did these real nice hardcovers. This is, of course, the Mirka Andolfo cover, the Stepan Sejic cover, the Michael D. Pascal cover, and I can't show you the other version of the Michael D. Pascal cover. You can probably guess why. Same cover, just a little more revealing. And by the way, if you pick up one of these, all the covers are in the back of the book too. So if you, yes, because it's naughty, thank you. So if you're a Mirka Andolfo fan, you pick this one up. In the back, you still have, you know, the Stepan Sejic and the Michael D. Pascal cover. I gotta admit, the box came with these in it, and it was super heavy, and they sent me a good number of them. And I've never had a hardbound book that I'm in. You know, I've had trades, I've had single issues, all that. I've done novels. But to actually have a hardbound book, I can't even show you some of the pages in it, but having a hardbound book is pretty freaking cool. I mean, that's... But if you haven't picked it up, if you didn't do the Kickstarter, it's going to be released in a few months on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. I know that because it's listed already on those sites. But I believe it will also be done through your comic stores. So keep an eye out for that. If you didn't pick up one of these during the Kickstarter, you can still grab one soon. All right. Making sure that doesn't like knock a bunch of stuff. This is the organized part of my office. Over there, kind of scary. All right. So we're going to talk about Obi-Wan Kenobi. Now, I did this show yesterday about the first two episodes. And episode 1 was very focused on Obi-Wan, kind of setting up where he is now. And I think that's a huge part of this series, because I was talking about yesterday, I think he basically has PTSD or you know, something similar to that. He is still just shut down. He's closed himself off from the Force and is not in good headspace, not in good shape. He's not even doing the things he's supposed to be doing. You know, he's on Tatooine. He's supposed to be watching over Luke, but he's also supposed to be training Luke. He even tells Owen, you know, the boy will need to be trained. And it's like, well, wait a minute. Training starts really young. So shouldn't he be training him already? Shouldn't he have been training him since he was like 3, 2, 3, 4? I mean, because you look up Obi-Wan himself, he was taken from his parents. Now, that's something that's kind of interesting that's mentioned in the series, which contradicts. But according to write-ups and stuff online, Obi-Wan is from the planet Stugin and was taken from his parents before he was 6 months old. Now, can a 6-month-old remember that he may have had a brother? So maybe that age thing is going to change. I don't know. But by the way, if anybody's curious and don't know this story, the name Steugen is Stewjon. And it's the name of his planet comes from an interview that George Lucas was doing at the time, and the interviewer asked him, what planet does Obi-Wan come from? And without a beat, George Lucas made up the name Steugen. Well, the reason he came up with the name Steugen is because the gentleman asking him the question was Jon Stewart. So Obi-Wan's name is basically a tribute to Jon Stewart. So I thought that was kind of interesting. So yeah, but we the first 2 episodes are really kind of building up. Obi-Wan is kind of avoiding using the Force. So you can see he's avoided using it completely on Tatooine, and he's just not connected to the Force anymore. In a lot of ways, it's like Luke when we meet him in the middle movie in the trilogy. What was that one? The Last Jedi? Yeah, The Last Jedi. Thanks. That he's cut himself off from the Force. Now, it didn't seem to take Luke a lot to reconnect, but I think it's going to take longer for Ben, because Luke had to kind of open himself to it. He had a lot of time. Last Jedi is your favorite Star Wars film, JD? You're just trying to be controversial now. I know you're holding out for a Scott Buck written Star Wars movie. So I think Obi-Wan still needs to deal with everything that happened. He's had 10 years, but I don't think he's dealt with any of it. So it just strikes me as we're getting a much more psychological series here. That said, I think it's going to be Leia that pulls him out of it. Now, I went into the 3rd episode kind of hoping that we were going to start this with a different direction. You know, that he'd be delivering Leia to Bail, and then we would go a different direction. Because I'm not a fan of the current Star Wars trend of little kids in shows. You know, and they've been doing it kind of since Dave Filoni got to start being in charge. You know, you had a young Ahsoka Tano dealing, you know, a Padawan, and she became kind of the voice of the Clone Wars. You had Rebels, which was a young Ezra Bridger, you know, And then we get even younger. We got Grogu with the Mandalorian. We've got Omega with the Bad Batch. And now we're with Kenobi, and he's dealing with the kid too. But it's Leia. So you kind of have to... It's like, you're spending a lot of time doing this. But it's Leia. And what else would... It had to be something important enough to make Ben leave the planet. To leave watching over Luke. So it kind of makes sense that... Oh, hey, Kenneth, how you doing? It kind of makes sense that it's Leia, because there probably weren't that many things that would get Obi-Wan to leave Luke. But also, I'm a little tired of my Star Wars being with a lot of little kids. So I was kind of hoping the third episode would start with him going, "Here's your daughter. I'm leaving now." And no. But it starts with him still trying to commune with Qui-Gon. And it's interesting. I think that's another sign of where he's at mentally. You know, because Revenge of the Sith ended with Yoda telling him, I'll teach you how to commune with Qui-Gon. Okay, that's a horrible Yoda voice. I won't do that anymore. So he's had 10 years to work this out, which means that he just, again, disconnected from the Force, probably disconnected from his own confidence, you know? He doesn't have that self-confidence anymore. So not really sure what will get him out of it, but I think that's the purpose of this series. Because the Ben we meet, even though he's old Ben, he's been living on Tatooine for 19 years. Yeah, I think it's 19 years between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope. So he would have been living there for 19 years. And someone should have told him about moisturizer, because you can see what living in the desert does. It takes him from being Ewan McGregor to old Alec Guinness. But it just seems like the Ben that we meet in A New Hope, or I'm used to just calling it Star Wars, you know, because that's what it was titled when I saw it. It was just Star Wars. But in A New Hope is more confident. You know, he gets off the Millennium Falcon going, I'll take care of the tractor beam. You guys stay here. I got this. No problem. You know, oh, you need a distraction. I'll take on Vader. You know, and he didn't want to leave the planet with, in this one. And, oh, the princess needs me. Come on, Luke, let's go. He's in a very different headspace at that point. So they have to get there. Because the Luke or the Obi-Wan we're seeing right now, or the Ben we're seeing right now, is not the one we meet in A New Hope. So the series, from what I understand, and this is the rumors I've been hearing, is that this is basically the plot of what they wanted to do in a movie. And they've taken the movie, expanded on it, and turned it into the series. Hence why it's 6 episodes. But it seems that they may have stretched a little too far. Some of the scenes seem to go on quite a bit. Like this episode. Episode 1 was slow, but they were doing a lot of world building and a lot of character development. Episode 2 was much more quick-paced. Boom, 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 boom. Episode 3, again, started off kind of slow. You know, we had a lot of talkie, a lot of tense moments, the whole riding with the stormtroopers thing. But, you know, and then there'd be a moment of action and then slow again. A lot of talking. And then it gets to the end, though, when everything starts happening. Geez. It just starts flying at that point. But, all right, let's go ahead and take our first break. When we come back, we'll start getting into the details of the episode. We'll do the spoiler warning, all of that when we come back. So, be right back.
Join the party. Head over to our link tree to find all the links for everywhere the experience is all the time.
Comic Collectibles is here for you every Wednesday with AR Comics for two very important reasons. To sell you rare, one-of-a-kind comics that you'll love, and to confuse AR with old man talk. You see, Rex and John are, how should I put this, ancient as the roots of the mountains. So every week, Rex and John fill in AR in yet another area of pop culture that he missed because he's too young, just didn't have the time, or just really doesn't care about. It's a real public service they provide. Come buy some super rare and unique comics, while old men explain long-dead sci-fi shows to a younger man making that confused puppy face. Every Wednesday from 6 to 8 Eastern with Rex, John, and AR Comics. Comic Collectibles on The Experience. Comic culture and sales.
Are you a comic creator? Are you a publisher? Do you make a comic book product? Do you own a retail store? Do you do something I haven't thought of? Who are you and what do you do? Let us know by advertising on The Experience and invite our viewers to patronize your product. Message the EXP on social media or email us the_EXP@yahoo.com for more details.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dan Wickline Show here on The Experience. I was just thinking about next week. Next week's going to be a crazy week because we're going to have a lot of stuff to cover. I like to dedicate a show to each one of the show's episodes. So today's Kenobi, episode 3. But next week, The Boys drops tomorrow. And I think they're dropping 3 episodes to start, and then it'll be a weekly thing. Kenobi is going to have a new episode on Wednesday. Miss Marvel is going to drop on Wednesday. So I guess we'll do The Boys on Monday, The Boys on Tuesday, Miss Marvel on Wednesday, and Kenobi on Thursday? Yeah. Seems like the only way we're going to be able to do it, because we're going to have 3 shows to cover for, 3 weeks? Yeah, we're going to have 3 weeks of 3 shows, and it's going to keep like that through the summer. We got a lot of really good shows coming up. Only Murders in the Building. Something else just dropped too. Oh, the Orville just dropped. So there's a lot of great stuff. Obviously, you need 5 shows a week. No, we don't need 5 shows a week. So yeah, I think that'll be the plan next week. We'll definitely be covering The Boys. I caught up with season 2, and I'm all set. I haven't watched all of Diabolical yet, Diabolical. I've watched the Homelander specific one because that's on YouTube. I didn't realize, and it was just okay. I'll watch it, but I'll try to watch those tonight, and then jump into The Boys this weekend. So, oh man, talk about your ends of the spectrum. JD and I were talking yesterday about how Kenobi is kind of a children's story, or for kids, and that most Star Wars is written towards kids or younger audiences. And The Boys isn't. Not at all. Not even sure who The Boys are written for. I think The Boys originally was written for Garth Ennis. I think Garth there was like a therapy session for him. He's going to do all the things he wanted to do to other superheroes, but they wouldn't let him. There's no Garth Ennis children's section in the bookstore. I think that would be the best thing ever, to have Garth Ennis make a children's book. Because I have a feeling it would be fantastic. Just saying. So we need to see if we can get Nick Barucci to reach out and get him to a children's story. All right. So let's do the spoiler thing just in case. All right, so we're definitely going to talk some spoilers here. The episode opens up with that ship that they escaped on, and Kenobi is still kind of in this headspace because of the whole Anakin's alive. And as they're traveling, he fixes Lola. So he's not very nice to Leia in some of his terminology speaking. I don't think he's... It's funny, he basically trained and stuff Anakin, but he doesn't seem very good with children. Kind of funny. JD says, I said yesterday that Nick needs a kid's imprint, Dynamites. Nice. I like it. And you reach out to all the people known for doing, like Cullen Bunn and Alan Moore, and yeah, that would be Garth Ennis, James Tinian. Yeah, I like it. Little Deja Forrest. Little Vampy. Little Red. Getting me off track here, JD. All right, so yeah, we even see Qui-Gon, or we see Kenobi trying to talk to Qui-Gon. It doesn't work. He's just not centered. He's not one with the Force at this point. As the I am the Force, or what is it? I am the Force, and the Force is with me. I'm with the Force, and the Force is with me. Whatever it is. But yeah, he's not it. But they head down to this planet, and it's interesting. The planet they land on, and I don't remember the name of it. JD could probably tell me. It's not a sand planet, but it's a desert type planet that's being strip mined. So a lot of the stuff is going away. It's kind of like if you ever go out to California to Joshua Tree and stuff. You see some green plants and stuff, but overall, it's not looking good. It's not as, it's not like Tatooine, which is just sand everywhere. Yes, they definitely probably went out to Joshua Tree to film it. They don't always film on the volume, but so it's kind of a desert planet, but not as bad as Tatooine or Navarro. And they get off, and we see these new kind of droids, which are basically loader droids. And I don't believe we've seen them before. And we're going to meet one specific one later on, but it's kind of a cool looking droid. I mean, it's a droid I could see story, working into stories, Mapuzo. Thank you, JD. Mapuzo is the name of the planet. And why does that sound Italian? These droids are kind of cool. I could see you working them into stories. And that's something that's common in Star Wars. I mean, besides 3PO and R2-D2, you get droids like Mr. Bones. If you've read the Chuck Wendig Aftermath series, he introduces a character named Mr. Bones, which is a repurposed B-1 battle droid that has one of the most demented personalities that you'll ever meet. That he's just like this homicidal killer, and he services I can't remember the character's name, but he ends up in the Last Jedi as well as one of the pilots, but with him as a kid. And it's a pretty interesting storyline. If you want to check out Chuck Wendig's 3-book series, Aftermath, it's canon, unlike a lot of the old novels. And it's a lot of fun. But it also has Han and Chewie and Wedge, stuff like that. So we meet these new droids, and they're badass looking droids. And we get one specifically we meet as Ned B, but we'll get to Ned when we get to him. But we also see that Ben is really struck by the betrayal by Anakin. He assumes the guy, the Johnny's character, is going to screw him over, that there's going to be nobody meeting them. And they get going. And, so he's expecting the worst of people now. He doesn't trust people. He's lost that too. And, they talk as they're going through the desert, and they come across this truck, Star Wars equivalent of a truck, driven by this pig-like creature. And it's interesting because I'm trying to think of the name of the character. It's Frick. Yeah, I think it's Frick. And it's a new kind of race, but it might not be, because there's the old Droids episode, the old animated series Droids, and they had creatures similar to that, so they might be pulling those in. But yeah. So, but the interesting thing is that Frick is voiced by Zach Brandt from Scrubs. Zach Brandt. And so that's our first celebrity cameo voice in here. But every time you hear a stormtrooper, anthropomorphized star-nosed mole. Yep. But there is, in the droids, there's a race of mole people that, that might be connected. But yeah, so he just seems like this good old boy, Oh yeah, I'll take you to town. Yeah, how you doing? Yeah, come on. And they get to go in the back of the truck, and he's got an Empire flag on the back. It's like, And it turns out he's a fan of the Empire and he likes order. And of course, they play along. And Leia gives them names, Luma and Orden. And of course, the next thing Frick does is he picks up a few stormtroopers to take him along the way. So, Kenobi or Ben and Leia have this moment where they're trying to play off the stormtroopers, and that's kind of fun, Oh, the flag did look handmade. Yeah, it looked like he was showing his support for the Empire. It wasn't something they gave him to say, "Oh, I'm an official Empire person." But there's an interesting moment where they're trying to use their code names, Luna and Orden, and Ben calls her Leia, and he'd already said that their mom had passed, and they were that they were coming out here to show him where they had met, and I mean it's a pretty good story, heart-wrenching type story that gets people's attention. But then he plays it off and goes, "Oh, her mother's name was Leia, and I look at her and I see her mother." And it's an interesting beat, but the stormtroopers buy it, and they get to where they need to go and they get off. But then Leia asks him, "Did you know my mother, and are you my father?" Which I thought was kind of an interesting question. And we get a little more backstory on Ben here, and he talks about his parents and that he believes he had a brother. And there's never been a mention of a brother previously. And, would he be force sensitive? Is that something that maybe they set up later on? I mean, there's a lot you could do with a brother for Kenobi. I mean, at Celebration, Ewan McGregor came out and said, "Hey, everybody, thank you. Yeah, I'm glad you guys loved the first 2 episodes, and I hope you're going to love episodes 3, 4, 5, and 6." And the crowd went wild. And he said, "And 7, 8, 9, and 10. There's no 7, 8, 9, and 10. It stops at 6. So maybe he was teasing that they've got plans to do more Kenobi. Maybe he was just playing along. But, the fact that there's a brother might be a storyline. So they, of course, go to the checkpoint, and we find out that Frick actually wants to turn them in or have them checked out by security, which leads to Ben finally having to fight. And again, no lightsaber. Pistol shoots the probe droid in the face, in the eye, takes out a couple of the stormtroopers, shoots one that falls through and hits a laser gate and slices him in half. And we get what we need in every Star Wars episode, a Wilhelm scream as he falls. But yeah, Ben is able to eventually take care of all those stormtroopers, and the next Star Wars trope shows up. He tries to work the gate code, nothing. He shoots it, and of course, it opens. Because in Star Wars, when you shoot something, it automatically does exactly what you need. It's the equivalent of Doctor Strange's sonic screwdriver. All right, okay, it does what I need. Just shoot it and it'll work. Need the door open? Shoot it. Need the door closed? Shoot it. It'll do whatever you need it to do. Just shoot it. That's a horrible slogan, but I like it. And then they go and as soon as they get inside, we see another thing of stormtroopers show up, and they've got the drop on them. And you see Ben is trying to calculate, what am I going to do? And he's putting his head down. And there's an Imperial officer with them, and she shoots all 3 of the stormtroopers and says, "Come on, you were supposed to rendezvous with me, but let's go." And this is where I forget her name because I'm just that guy. Pause now for station identification. Indira Varma playing Tala, and she works with Kamal Najani's character from last time. She was the one that was supposed to meet them when they got to the planet. So it turns out Kamal Najani's character was legit. He was pretending to be a Jedi, but he really was helping people, and he helps them. Now, and yes, he sent them to a planet with an Empire presence or an Imperial presence, but Mapuzo is an outskirt planet, so they're not going to have a lot of people on there. So, meanwhile, all this is going on. Riva, the third sister, reports to Vader, and Vader's like, I know you've got grand... Yeah, and it's the voice of James Earl Jones. That's the best part. We see Darth Vader, and it's the voice of James Earl Jones. And it's like a scary warm blanket. It's like, oh, James Earl Jones is still Darth Vader's voice. But it's Darth Vader, which is still kind of scary. So, and he basically tells her, your ambitions are great, and if you bring him in, you could be the new Grand Inquisitor since the other one's dead. Though they don't say dead. And since he shows up in Rebels, I don't think he's supposed to be dead. Plus, I found out that the race he is, I think it's Pow, they have two stomachs. So it's possible that he got stabbed in one stomach, but is still okay. But he tells her that if you could possibly be the Grand Inquisitor if you've succeed, but if you fail me, I will kill you. Vader definitely should not write a book on how to make friends and influence people. He's not that guy. But if he did write the book, everybody under him would buy a copy, probably get it signed. But then she has to deal with the fifth brother, who said that he's next in line. Now, that makes me kind of curious because, from what I understand of the Inquisitorius, the Grand Inquisitor is first, and then they're kind of numbered in seniority. So, second sister, who's part of Jedi Fallen Order, then third sister would be next. Then I think it's fourth sister, then fifth brother. Gonna need a flow chart. Yeah, definitely gonna need a flow chart for that. But it's so, and the fifth brother's kind of upset, but she's like, "Hey, Vader gave me these orders. So you could either follow them, or if you think I should follow you and you want to answer to Vader, that's fine." But he gets mad. He says, "I will get what I deserve." And she's like, "I hope you do." JD says, "I feel like this Vader is not the Vader in the original trilogy. This is Anakin at the height of his rage and power." Yeah, I could see that. It's still 10 years until A New Hope. A lot can happen, or 9 years. So a lot could happen. And we don't know how this series is going to end. He might have said, something might happen that maybe turns him down a little bit, calms him down a touch. So, well, and then, so she orders them to send out the probes following where that ship was supposed to be tracking, which is the probe that he shoots in the eye. The episode at this point is still moving kind of slow. We find out that there's this underground railroad-like setup called the Path for Jedis and others JD says he seemed much more like a passionless, lawful evil later. Yeah, I could see that. So maybe there's a Disney Plus series in there. Explain the difference. There's some great Vader comic books. I could see them doing a Vader series. So we learn about this underground path. And there's a name drop, which is really cool. It's a character that was first introduced in Phantom Menace. And it's Quinlan Vos, another Jedi that showed up a lot in the Clone Wars. They spent a good amount of time in him. You know, he's a sarcastic, he's got a sarcastic sense of humor, and he doesn't play by the rules, all that stuff. But he's the perfect guy to be leading this. And maybe by name dropping him, because he wrote on the wall, it might just be a simple Easter egg. Or maybe they're going to pull him into the series. You know, this is Quinlan Vos needs to show up live action. Dude keeps getting name dropped and never gets screen time. Yeah, Jeff, I agree with you. So maybe he shows up here. And then also this is taking place around the same time as Fallen Order. So there's always, or the new the survival game that just got announced. So maybe we'll get a Cal Kestis nod. That would be cool. Or somebody from the Fallen Order series. But yeah, so we see that underground where they're hiding, and we meet Ned B, who looks like just a tank droid. You know, I know he's a loader, but if you were building a team for a role-playing game and you needed a tank, you'd go, well, I'll take the Ned B droid to be my tank, you know, and the Jedi would be my attacker, and then I got to get a healer, and well, Ned B would definitely be there. And he seems very interesting. You know, he seems like he's a little different than the other. He can't speak, which I thought was interesting. Maybe they'll figure a way to give him a voice later on. I don't know if this will be a character that they keep going with, because he does help out a lot in this episode. And obviously the underground there is blown. So Tala needs to get off that planet too. But you know what? Let's go ahead and take our next break, and then we'll come back and talk about the appearance of Darth Vader. We'll be right back.
There's a super new way to support your friends over at The Experience. Head over to YouTube and send us a super chat, a super sticker, or a super thanks. We'll be super grateful for your support, and then keep an eye out as we launch membership services over on YouTube. It'll be a great way to get first look access at new content and shows before anybody else. Keep your eyes peeled and make sure you're following us on YouTube.
There's something for every imagination at your local comic shop. Visit ComicShopLocator.com to find a store near you.
Imagine being at a convention and going to an interview panel that's just for you. No bustling crowds, no hours-long lines, just you, the moderator, and your favorite comic book creators. Well, this is pretty much that. Miss Jen sits down every week with 2 comic book creators for a live stream interview about their latest work, and you can ask them whatever you want. It's Talking Shop, Mondays at 5 Eastern on The Experience, Comic Culture and Sales.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Dan Wickline Show here on The Experience. Stay tuned. Right after this should be Miss Jen's What's in the Box. And then, but let's get back to Vader. I've seen some talk online that maybe they went a little overboard on Vader's entrance. And I disagree for a very specific reason. I've talked about Lisa on the show. She's got 2 kids. One is 18, one is 16. I've taken them to see most of the Marvel movies. They've never seen any of the Star Wars movies. They've watched some of The Mandalorian. They think Baby Yoda's cute, but they've never seen the Star Wars movies. They're probably going to watch Kenobi. Which means that they've never seen Darth Vader before. And if you think about it, other than that, Rogue One and the original 3, if you haven't seen those, you don't know who Darth Vader is. You could have a whole experience with Star Wars and not have come across Darth Vader. So I think it was good for the producer or the director and the runners and stuff to realize they needed to reestablish what a threat Darth Vader truly is. And they do that by having him just mercilessly walk through the town, just tearing things up, killing people. It is over the top, but it needs to be, because Darth Vader is pretty much like the number 1 villain in the world. There's been votes and stuff, and he always tops it out. So it was a good scene, and having Ben watch it and not jump out to fight, again, showed us him hitting rock bottom. And he finally had to take a stand and to get Leia out of there. So he sends Tala and Leia off, and he goes out to confront Vader. And I don't think at any point he thinks he's going to live. I think he goes out there knowing he's going to die. He hasn't used the Force in years. He's not trained. He probably hasn't even turned his lightsaber on in years. So he walks out there with the whole purpose that he's just going to delay it. And it's not a pretty fight. It's not even a good fight. It is basically Vader toying with Ben, just beating him around, and Ben just trying to stay alive for as long as he can to give Leia as long as she can to leave. Now that, of course, doesn't work very well, because Reva finds the safe house, goes after him, and Talia ends up leaving Leia to go help Ben. Now, I don't think Talia would have left Leia on her own normally. I think maybe Leia force pushed her a little bit. So I think we're seeing a lot of little things that Leia can do without any training or knowing she's doing it. The subconscious stuff she does that taps into the Force. So we go back to Ben, and they end up in this like quarry area, and Vader starts force choking him. And at that point, if he just wanted to kill Ben, he could have just went snap, and Ben would be dead. JD says, I thought it was supposed to mirror the Vader fight on Cloud City where he was basically toying with Luke. Sure. That's probably plausible. Yeah. But once he gets the Force thing on him, he could have killed him like that. And yeah, he could. I mean, it might be, oh, I'm going to interrogate you to find out where the other Jedi are. I don't get that feeling from Vader. This isn't a practical thing. This is, he wants Kenobi to suffer everything he's gone through. All of the pain, the burning, the limbs off, all of that. And we see start of it when he sets the ground on fire and drags Ben through it. Now, it's not as severe as what Anakin went through at the end of Revenge of the Sith, but it's a start in a way. And yeah, Vader wants payback. Anakin wants revenge. That's the whole key there. He blames everything that went wrong on Ben. You know, Padme, everything. He blames. He doesn't see that he was his own demise. He brought himself down. So, seeing that and just and how little Ben is fighting back. I mean, again, we go back to the prequel series. Obi-Wan Kenobi is leaping into battles without a second thought. He's taken on General Grievous and the Separatist army. He's jumping in against Darth Maul, even though he just watched Qui-Gon get killed. He's fearless. That's not Ben we have now. So, now the interesting thing is that he lights this fire, and this is my only problem with the whole episode, is Vader lights this fire, drags him through it, and then he puts it out. And then the stormtroopers show up, and Talia ends up hitting a fuel tank or something, blowing it up, causing a big fire to separate them. Well, didn't Vader just put the fire out with the Force? Could he not do that, at least in a small area, to let the stormtroopers go through and get the... And couldn't the stormtroopers run around it? I mean, did it just happen to fill up that hole? Yeah. So that I found a little off. But, you know, she is able to buy enough time to have the Ned B droid run in and pick him up and get him out of there. And why didn't Vader just go, Force sleep? So yeah, you got to put that aside. But after, you know, and then, so Obi-Wan's alive, and we know he's going to live. It's not, but, you know, I mean, he could be all scarred, and that's why when he faces Kenobi in New Hope, or when he faces Vader in New Hope, he's just like, no problem, I'll just kill me. Because he can't do much anymore because he's all, but we don't know that. So they could beat the crap out of him in this series, replace limbs and a bunch of other stuff, and still be okay with A New Hope, with continuity. But we get, we then flash over to see that Reva has gotten ahead of Leia, killed the pilot, and basically is going after Leia. And that's how the episode ends. Now, this is going to be kind of weird because I don't know where they're going next. Kenobi isn't in a place where he can... I mean, if Reva decides, let's take Leia back to our center and have, you know, and then make Obi-Wan come to us. That would be kind of, you know, I don't think Obi-Wan would be up for that kind of fight. I don't see him being that guy. And unless their plan is, you know, let's go through the path and find every other Jedi out there, and Quinlan Vos and Cal Kestis and everybody else shows up to help. But I don't think that's this series. I don't think that's what this series is. I think this is about Obi-Wan getting his confidence back and reconnecting to the Force. So it's going to be interesting to see what Reva does as a trap for him or to get him. And eventually what's going to turn Vader, you know, calm Vader down in a way, like JD was saying earlier. So this is a show that's really hard to figure out where they're going because you don't know what story they're trying to tell. I mean, yes, it's about Obi-Wan getting his confidence back. It's about Vader and the two of them and him getting over the betrayal. But we don't, and we know a lot of the pieces have to remain on the board. We can't lose Leia. We can't lose Vader. And we can't lose Ben. Ben has to end up back on Tatooine at the end of this so that he can be there when, Luke goes looking for R2. I mean, it could literally be he just got back. But it seems like, maybe not. That he's been around enough that Luke knows who he is. So, again, it's kind of weird where this series is going. I'm not quite sure. There's enough gray area that I wouldn't have guessed that we would have gotten Vader in episode 3. Or that Reva would have taken Leia. Or that Leia would have been around as much as she is. So, your guess is as good as mine is what we'll be talking about next week. So, all right. So, speaking of next week, the lineup's going to be the boys, Miss Marvel, and then Kenobi, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. 3 episodes of the boys come out tomorrow. Miss Marvel debuts on Wednesday along with a new Miss Marvel or a new Kenobi. Yeah, and there will be spoilers. So I hope you guys all have a good time. Have a great weekend. Stick around for Miss Jen and What's in the Box. And I'll see you later. Have a good night.
Thanks for tuning into The Experience. Help us out and hit subscribe over on YouTube and click the bell when you do. Need some help? Scan the QR code in the bottom corner.